T-shirt on. I've got the McLaren hat. You've got the McLaren shirt. I did have the Lando hoodie on, the same as James's, but then as I was about to
This
sit down, have you
this
got
is
the
a Lando
Lando?
this is a Lando jersey as well.
Uh,
I don't think I've got any other. I don't think I've got any other team merch.
I don't
Hmm.
have other T-shirts, but I do have hats. I've got like
Uh,
a Kimi Räikkönen Alfa Romeo one. I've got an Albon one. I've got an old Hesketh one that I bought years like a while ago.
the
That's
Hesketh
it.
one's good. Actually, to be fair, I did get a Hesketh racing T-shirt for my birthday, so maybe I should go stick that on.
Uh,
Because me and my dad are going to the
I should probably
Hungarian Grand
represent
Prix. And we got
oh, oh,
should probably represent with this today as well, shouldn't I? After
uh,
if it fits. After it's a Fernando hat, but I'll do it symbolically for
you can
sport fans.
represent the Drive Survive fans of Formula One by wearing multiple things at the same time.
Yes.
And to be fair, you have got Hulkenberg as your background rather than
Yes, I do.
McLaren. So
You can't see it, but I'm looking at my wall of hats. I won't put on the Ferrari hat. I don't think they deserve it. Right then, let's get into it. Welcome everybody to the Everything F1 podcast. My name is Sean, and joining me this evening to review what was, I think, unequivocally the best race of the season, is James. How are you
yeah, doing
doing,
very
mate?
well, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very good. I'm looking forward to chatting about this one. And Coops, good evening, also in McLaren gear. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very, very, very well indeed. We are Everything F1. If you're joining us live on YouTube, thank you very much. Get your comments and opinions into us. Thank you for joining us. If you're not joining us on YouTube, do head over to our YouTube channel. You'll find us there, Everything F1, all one word. No, it's not being recorded. Let's start that again. Good evening and welcome to the Everything F1 podcast. My name is Sean, and joining me this evening to review what was unquestionably the best race of the season so far is James. Good evening, James.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm in good form, despite the fact that I forgot to hit record. And Coops, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
We are Everything F1, and as if you were listening live on YouTube, you would have heard me say a minute ago before I hit record properly. We stream live on YouTube now, so if you are watching, thank you very much for watching on YouTube. Do get involved with us with some comments and opinions as we go through. If you're not watching live on YouTube, do head over to our YouTube channel when you get the chance. Everything F1, all one word. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find out when we go live so that you can have your say in our podcast as well. We also have a competition going on over there. When we hit 500 subscribers, we'll be giving away a Lego F1 Speed Champions kit to one lucky subscriber, and we'll do that again at 1,000 subscribers. You can also find us on all other socials at JoinEF1 or at EF1 Official on TikTok, and check out our website, everythingf1.com, for daily news and articles about all things motorsport. We're into the height of the summer season now. There's lots of activity going on everythingf1.com. And finally, don't forget to check out our sponsors, theraceworks.com, for all of your F1 and motorsport merch, which I'm sure, lads, is where we probably all got most of what we're decked out in today. And if you're watching us live, or if you're watching the YouTube videos back later, or if this gets clipped, I think it's fair to say that we're happy with who won that race, lads. Would that would that be a fair statement? James, I'll go to you because you, like me, are in your Lando gear. So, uh, initial thoughts and reactions on the race?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, 100% was the best race of the year. Silverstone always brings a good race, but putting rain in the mix as well, just yeah, really good race. And of course, we can have wild predictions, but probably a safer bet this year would be that the two McLarens would finish first and second, which of course they did. So, but yeah, fantastic race, and it did feel like just constantly stuff going on. So yeah, always good at Silverstone. So I was very happy with the overall race and the result, I must admit.
Yeah, it was a goodie. Coops, what was your initial reaction to the British Grand Prix in its entirety, the madness that it was?
Silverstone just does it again, doesn't it? It's at least this year, from the year that I was there, it didn't try and kill a driver. It was just good racing and a pretty eventful weekend. And for
Always
anyone
good.
who doesn't know, I was there the year that his Gran Peugeot flipped and slid along on the halo. That's what I was talking about.
Which lives long in the memory. It wasn't that long ago, but my God,
Mm.
that was a scary moment. Thankfully, none of that. Although I think George and Charles did their best attempts at having a go through the grass over the course of the race. We'll get into all of that as we go through it, but I think there's no place we can start other than with the man of the hour himself. If you're watching me, I've got him here. Nico Hülkenberg. I won't attempt to do Daniel Ricciardo's impression of him. Uh, Absolutely unbelievable. 239 race starts. He had the most unwanted record in all of Formula One history of the most entries without a podium. That now drops back to Adrian Sutil, unfortunately for him. Nico has the record for the longest time until a podium scored, but he won't care in the slightest. Coops, I'll come to you first. Happiest, the most popular podium ever, arguably, or certainly in a long
Oh, it has to be, doesn't it? I
time.
mean, I don't think there's anyone that can have any kind of complaint from Nico to get the third place. And the funniest thing about it was that the the Stake F1 team didn't have champagne in its inventory, so everybody had to go rushing in. So Mercedes sent over a bag with a couple of bottles of chappers, which probably got sprayed around around the hospitality. Apparently, Aston Martin sent over a few bottles as well. Uh, it just, and I think what makes it even sweeter was that it wasn't a fluke.
Mm.
It was just a good car, a really solid, dependable driver, and just some really decent strategy. Now, I think Mercedes and Ferrari, which we'll touch on, both of them should probably maybe have a wee chat with the Sauber pit wall because they didn't exactly fill themselves full of glory. But yeah, you couldn't fault them. It's even better when Norris came in with his helmet to put it into the bit in the cool down room because he's like, well, why did I need that? Right, okay. But yeah, out of anyone you want to see in the podium, that's who you want to see.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I don't think there was a single driver who didn't congratulate him. Max Verstappen drove straight past him, was the first one to congratulate him. Gabriel Bortoleto, who unfortunately did not finish the race, was the first one to give up to it and even got on the radio to him as well to say congratulations, you're a hero. Hamilton congratulated him, Alonso congratulated him. Everybody was really, really happy for him, and rightly so. He's a stalwart in Formula One now. He's what I would call a bit like a Sergio Perez. He's a world-class midfielder. I've always said he's got a podium in him. He's probably got a race win in him as well if Audi can continue the trajectory that the stake is currently on. And if he stays in for long enough, that'd be incredible as well. But James, what did you make of the Hulk finally getting onto the podium?
Yeah, I'm really happy for him because it's the one record that no one really wants, is it? The near but yet so far, and I'm sure Adrian Schittel was really happy that he's got it now as well. But no, I thought it was fantastic. I think it was really nice to see the outpouring of like emotion from the other teams because I think they mentioned in the commentary it's been 13 years since Sauber's last podium, which really obviously puts into perspective the amount of hard work, hours, effort that all these people put in and for to go 13 years without, that level of excitement and success on the track is always nice to see when that's broken. And also then you see actually how much of like a traveling circus F1 is. I think you don't get that in other sports where the other teams will be that happy for the other team to get a podium, because they do travel around with each other and they see each other all the time. And I think that part of Formula One's really nice. But and like you said, I think he like Coop said, there wasn't a fluke. He drove a really good race. I think Sauber got their strategy obviously spot on. They were on the right tire on the right time, as Martin Brundle says. But you had to deliver. And Hulkenberg's been in positions before in similar conditions actually, and not performed and made mistakes and crashed or. So it was nice to see him actually get through that and get the podium, which, like you both said, he thoroughly deserves. He is a world-class midfielder, and you never know if he got into the right car at the right time, he could win a multi-race winner because he's got that sort of talent. So really happy for him. It's one of those times when everyone comes together. I would like to see Lewis on the podium, but he didn't perform well enough, and Hulkenberg took it, and it was thoroughly deserved. And yeah, really, really good. Really, really happy for him and Sauber because they've made some great progress this year.
They certainly have, and this catapults them even further. They're now comfortably up to sixth in the
Wow.
standings, which is incredible.
Yeah. How far off
Um,
Williams are they?
18 points. Sauber have 41 points.
That's
Williams have 59. Like
I
that's all of a sudden
that,
that's not
that
safe for
doesn't feel
Williams,
that
is it?
close. Yeah, exactly. That feels pretty close.
Yeah. We've been saying for a few
Man.
weeks now that, Williams have done the bit, they've done the hard bit. They started well, they did the Brawn, they had a good early start, and they're just kind of clinging on to, or the Aston Martin of last year, good start, and just sort of stuck there in no man's land for the rest of the season. That does not look like the case anymore because, to your point, okay, it was a bit of a mad race. There was lots of retirements. He started 19th, and I don't think any of the retirements really benefited him in terms of like he would have probably got past a lot of them anyway. Such as just the race pace of the Sauber, like it just still can't qualify to save its life, especially in dry conditions. But the strategy, they absolutely nailed it. They'd have passed everyone who stayed out, assuming they all didn't make the same strategy anyway. So I don't think you could say, oh, he inherited 6 places. I didn't think he did. He got up into the points on merit alone, and then he passed Stroll for that podium. So yeah, absolutely incredible, and top marks to Sauber. The Audi bosses must be loving this at the moment, and Mattia Binotto must be having a nice little giggle to himself at the moment as well. After wiping the floor with Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah, so huge congratulations to Nico Hülkenberg. Let this very, very be the first of many podiums for him. Please, please, please. Don't want this to be the first. And I'd also like him to get a real trophy. The Lego trophies are cute, but I'd quite like him to get a real trophy that,
Yeah.
his daughter might not smash and swallow pieces of, kind of thing.
Did second and
But
third not get actual
no,
trophies? They just got
only
Lego
first
ones.
place. They just got the
Big.
Lego ones.
I always liked when it was I can't remember who the person that gave Lando Norris. Obviously, he got the main trophy, the Lego, and then that stupid gold medal that they get. The guy just he just kept
He
going
just kept coming
back.
back.
Lando's, oh, another thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a bit weird they did so many things, but
yeah.
yeah, they had to give the main trophy to Lando. And let's actually come straight on to McLaren. All of us obviously decked out in our kits. Lando Norris first, Oscar Piastri second. The main thing is take nothing away from Lando Norris's win. I actually think he probably would have caught Oscar on pace anyway. He was quicker in the final stint. I never heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I never heard them tell Lando over the radio that Oscar had a penalty. So it didn't feel like did they?
They did because they said if we pit, we're not going to follow him in. They said he's got a penalty, so if we pit, we're not going to stack.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Oh
fair
yeah,
enough,
yeah.
fair
There
enough.
was there was conversation about double staffing. They're
yeah,
like, no, we
yeah,
can't. Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
fair enough. I missed that one then, but he wasn't driving like someone who was just going to accept the penalty, was going to gift him the win. He looked like he wanted to do it on pure pace. So top marks to Lando, but obviously all came down to that penalty from Oscar Piastri braking too hard. So, Coops, can you give us a little bit
Yo,
of insight exactly into what happened? I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, but there's been report after report, and it was like this, and it wasn't like this, and such didn't get it, and Oscar didn't get it the first time, and George didn't get it in Canada. So, furnish us with the information as to why you think, well, why the FIA said he got the penalty, and then whether you agree with it or not.
okay. So there was a couple of safety cars. The first one he did the same thing, but don't think he did it quite to the extreme. So he braked because for anyone who doesn't know, when the safety car lights go off, you get to a certain part of the track, you have to slow the pack down because the leader is the de facto safety car and controls the pace, and you cannot go fast and then past the safety car, you get penalty, slam dunk, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to get that gap. So he slowed the pace down in the first restart, and then off he went. Second restart, slowed it down again. Verstappen comes alongside, gets straight on the blower, as every single Formula One driver does, even if they're pals, they run to the school teacher as soon as they can. And the school teacher they go on the radio because they know the FIA is listening to all the communication. And there's sporting directors and all that stuff that have conversations with them as well. So anyway, the second one, the FIA didn't like, gave him a 10-second penalty. So this is where everyone's going on about because George Russell apparently did it in Canada. And everyone's saying it's all this British bias and all this carry on.
George's Lando was, or Max was closer to him already. Max arguably nearly deserved the penalty for that because Max was doing the old Max thing that they brought in the rule for of having a look
Getting
on the outside.
alongside, yeah.
And at that point, it probably was George doing a little bit of gamesmanship going, get back in your place.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as dramatic. Sorry, continue there.
Yeah.
Tell us how it was different there on the dramaticness.
So the reason it's different under dramaticness is because it's all to do with brake pressures and there's a lot of data the FIA have at their disposal, not just the visual like we see and you're like, oh, that looked a bit iffy, or Max is exaggerating it, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't. They look at data to do with inputs, outputs, and all that sort of stuff. So according to the data the FIA released, Oscar Piastri produced 60 psi pressure towards the brake pedal George Russell's was 30, and the conditions and the situation, they deemed that to be unnecessary and a bit dangerous and slapped him with 10 seconds. 10 seconds is consistent this season. Seems to be more consistent with 10 seconds, especially under this situation than before. But what's interesting is that apparently it's came out and it was the race.com that had an exclusive. The FIA were already looking into Piastri's driving under the safety car at the previous safety car restart, the first one, not the one that he got penalised for. So they already kind of were like, oh, we don't like this. Is this...
It was noted really quickly. Like
The
by
second
the time
time
they
it was
got round,
noted.
yeah,
They were
really
watching it, and
quickly.
that's why
Yeah.
they've came out now, because it's clear now they were keeping an eye on it, and they were like, we don't like that. Watch this. Watch him. They were all just like watching Piastri to see what he did, and as soon as he did it, they're like, oh, rule book, and there's a guy at the back flicking through the pages and whatever else they do back there, or the tablet.
Another big difference. Obviously, you mentioned like the PSI pressure was 59.9, whatever it was for Piastri versus 30 for George. In Canada, George slowed from 140 kph to 85 kph, which is less than 60 kilometers an hour. Still a lot. If there was a car right behind him, someone would have hit him. But Max was, like I said, out to his side, and George was playing the get back there, buddy kind of thing. Piastri, by comparison, slowed from 218 kilometers an hour to 50. That is
That's
like hitting a
almost
wall.
that's almost stopping.
That is like hitting a wall in a Formula One car. And it was dramatic. And Max had to go offline onto the wet patch. So are we sort of agreed that a penalty was fair? If maybe we might debate on what penalty should have been given?
I think before we go on to that, I think I kind of understand why Piastri did it, because the safety car lights in the second restart came out a lot later. So he has to put the brakes on to get that gap, for like I've described earlier on about getting the gap, because you're not allowed to pass the safety car. You don't want to sprint off and then have to slow down again because the safety car's there, and that will compromise a lot of things and cause all sorts of issues. So I get why he did it. He just didn't quite execute it the right way. Under the conditions, as you say, the drop from 215 to 50, that's just too much. And you don't want, I think it was the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix under COVID. Was it Emilia Romagna, or was it the one at Mugello?
Mugello, yeah.
Where Bottas kept it slow right to the route because it's such a long line, and the people at the back were going fast up the front, and it just caused all sorts.
Which is where this new rule has come in. Well, not new rule, it was sort of always a gentleman's agreement that you don't go and stop and go and stop. And then they made it official that no, you don't go and stop.
Yeah.
The second you go, that's it, you're gone. If you go 10 corners early, that's your bloody problem. You get overtaken.
Yeah. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong. But you can't do that. It was a very expensive issue back then at Mugello. But for me, I will put my stall out here right now. And, I've got the hat, I've got the gear. Piastri made a mistake and he got hit with the penalty he deserved to get hit with. And that's it, in my opinion.
James, where do you sit on it? Did he deserve the penalty? If he did, was 10 seconds harsh, or was it fair?
I was going to disagree because I thought it was harsh. But when you mentioned the speed that he came down to what he was, I do think that's obviously that is fairly dangerous, fair enough. But I just don't really like, especially if they were aware of it from the time before in the safety cars. I'd much rather the FIA say, by the way, like give him a little bit of a warning. You can't be doing that again. I don't like these sort of races determined by what happened because someone nearly crashed under a safety car. Like Verstappen didn't really have to avoid it. He was going straight anyway. He just went past the car. I think the weather conditions didn't help because I think in a normal weather Verstappen season way earlier doesn't make a big deal out of it. The safety car did end really pretty sharply, and you could see Oscar wanted to get going before Stowe. Before Stowe, yeah. Is it Stowe or Cops? I can't remember now. Before that, it must be Stowe then. Before Stowe, like he wanted, I thought it was harsh. I think 10 seconds is that harsh. I think maybe 5 seconds would have been fine. But you saying the speed, I can see why they potentially gave him penalty because it was quite dramatic. But I don't think that sort of thing should be like. It feels like over refereeing, so I feel it's a bit harsh. I don't think he should have got a penalty for it, just to be on the other side of the fence. I just don't like seeing races decided because of that. I'd rather them tell them you can't be doing that again and get a penalty. Rather than if that was the case, of them thinking, oh, that looks a bit dodgy, but let's not wait until he makes a mistake. So I think it potentially ruined the end of the race as well. So I think it was a bit harsh.
Very fair, and it comes back to a conversation we had about Max Verstappen a couple of times this year of if you make an illegal overtake, why isn't there the thing that the FIA say we're looking into that? You have one
Mm,
lap to give that place back, or you risk being penalized.
yeah,
Surely the fact that like something gets noted should mean that should be enough. Like, okay, I've been noted for that. I need to give the place back. And
yeah,
maybe there did need to be a thing of, okay, well, if they're looking at you could maybe argue that the two safety cars came out really close together. There was what, like 3 laps between them or something like that.
mm,
So there was maybe literally not enough time for them to even say to the McLaren, well, we're looking at that. Tell Oscar not to do that again if there's another safety
yeah,
car. Just to play devil's advocate on that. But
mm,
I agree. I think this opens a wider question of should the stewards be a little quicker of um, give that place back, or don't do that again. If you do that again, we will look into it. That doesn't mean if you do that again, we'll punish you because it might not be
mm,
anything, but we've given you the warning. It's now in your hands. You could take your
yeah,
gamble and gamble that we'll do nothing about it, or you take your gamble and we're going to give you a 10-second penalty. You're going to ruin your race.
yeah.
Uh, for my part, I think a penalty was fair. I thought 10 seconds. Not that I don't think it was harsh, because if it was even slightly wetter, Max might have just gone into the side of him
Mm,
completely. You're right to say if it was drier, he wouldn't bother him in the slightest. This wouldn't have happened. So again, conditions play a factor in that. My issue is just the inconsistency of
mm.
what earns a 10-second penalty. Like how
That's what Verstappen got in Spain when he drove
how
into
does
George
Max
Russell.
deliberately driving into the side of George
Mm,
Russell get 10 seconds when Sebastian Vettel did that, he got a drive through or
mm.
stop go. He got a 10-second stop go
10
penalty for
seconds
that,
stop
didn't he?
go.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Baku. And Max does this year, it's 10 seconds. Lewis rams Max off the track in rams smacks Max off the track in Silverstone, gets only 10 seconds for it. There's a again, and we've kind of brought this up, but I don't want to linger too long on this because this maybe deserves an off-season discussion about the FIA rulings and penalties. But 10 seconds, it feels like they've kind of stopped going to 5 seconds entirely. It's just like 10-second penalty for you and for you and
yeah.
for you. And
It feels quite
maybe
reactive. There's people
kind
saying
of,
5 seconds. And I always think it's a little bit like I think my overall impression of the FIA is just quite rock bottom at the moment. Like having the formation lap start behind the safety car was just crazy. Like
yeah, it was. What's the
the
point of
sun was
full wet
out,
tires?
and also I thought the whole point was that now that everyone has to start the full wets, but that didn't happen either.
Yeah, the sun was out. They have full wet tires, which none of them used, even during a
Then
deluge when they were saying,
then
"Oh,
people
it's too
pitted,
wet," and
and people
people
pitted
pitted.
for dries.
The Formula Two cars had no issue.
Yeah,
And the weather
it's
was
just.
heavier when they were out. I thought that was pathetic,
But
to be
that's the
perfectly
problem is,
honest.
but then that's the problem. Like it's a little bit like referees in football. You're constantly doubting the decisions being made. So when it comes to something like this, it's just like, well, how have they decided that's 10 seconds, or how have they decided to take the
Yeah.
safety car out of this formation when it's absolutely balmy outside? I know it's wet, but crazy.
Yeah,
The
it's
the the biggest reason for the 10 or 5 seconds is if there's enough mitigation. So
Yeah,
if there's a mitigating element, say for example the Sonoda Ocon Lawson thing, if they were looking at that later on in the race, somebody might have got a 5 second because there were three abreast and there wasn't somewhere to
yeah,
go, that sort of thing. But with Piastri, there wasn't any mitigation. He slammed on
mm,
the brakes to get a gap and caused people
but
to have avoiding action, and he slammed on the brakes too much. For me, it's just a bit too black and white. If there's a wee bit more grey in there, could have been an issue. Uh, with regards to doing things like telling them don't do it again, you're running the risk of adding another grey element and another woolly
yeah,
element to
yeah, I know what you
rules.
mean.
You
that's
kind
fair.
of need to be either, you have to be one or the other. See this? Oh, don't.
Yeah,
Oh, it's like telling your
it's
child to
like people
stop
getting all
doing
people
stuff.
can do other things and get a warning to do it
Yeah,
once. Yeah, I
yeah.
know what you mean.
So it's that kind of thing. Like if anyone listening to this or watching this, if they've got a toddler and you tell them, "Gonna go do that," and you're getting your toy taken off you, then they do it again, and you don't take the toy off you, or you do take. It's
Mm,
mixed messages. There kind of needs to be that black and white. And I think when it comes to these kind of penalties, when it comes to overtaking and getting off the track and giving an advantage, that by design gives the stewards the opportunity to say, like,
Give it
on
back.
your bike, get back. But with
mm,
a decision like the Piastri one, It
Yeah,
doesn't allow
it's
for
not
that.
as cut
What are you going to
it's not as
do?
cut and dry. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, would you argue that it being wet is also a mitigating factor both ways? If it's wet, if it's not wet, Vax sees him and decide and doesn't make a big deal out of
If
it. But
it's
because it's
not wet,
wet, is that
Piastri wouldn't do it anyway.
You possibly wouldn't have had to. But
Yes.
but then
again,
is that
again, the other
yeah.
point is if it was wetter, it could have been much worse. And I think this again comes back, and we move on from this, right? But just one final point. This comes back to the point of like the FIA claim almost weekly that they don't give penalties based on the outcome, and then repeatedly give penalties based on nothing but the bloody outcome.
Yeah.
I personally think the penalty should be given based on the outcome. If you have like two cars tapping into each other and one has a little bit of a pirouette like the Haas's did, which was nice and synchronized,
Beautiful. Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. If one is deemed to be at fault, there was no danger. There was no real danger. It wasn't clumsy. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't silly. There was no lockup. It was just a racing incident, but one person should be deemed at fault. 5 second racing incident or 5 second penalty if it's deemed to be maybe a little bit harsher than that. But in the case where, and I'm just going to pick on him again because it was Silverstone, where you have Lewis coming up the inside to move that was never on, and Max gets 52G shunted into the wall, that maybe deserves a drive through at least, not a 10 second penalty that you can literally drive through in the second best Formula One car ever made on your home circuit. Again, different discussion. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know your thoughts on that. Do you think that the penalties should just like buck up and be given based on the actual outcome rather than, oh, it was just because it was a crash, it's 5 seconds. Whether you killed someone or not, it's 5 seconds. It's anyway. Let's move on to the winner and actually talk about the person who won the British Grand Prix. Lando Norris finally won at home, his eighth win ever in Formula One, brings him level with the likes of Charles Leclerc and Danny Ricciardo, which is pretty cool. 8 wins in just over a year. It's not bad going, all things considered. He's now on 4 for the season, one behind Oscar, but they're level on podiums, if I'm not wrong. And that was a really, really special one for him. Coops, he said that shy of winning the championship, this is the highlight of a Formula One career kind of thing for him is winning his home race.
Of course it is. I mean, if you're going to come out and say, yeah, it's just like every other one. I mean, come on. Like, we know he's not, and he needs this. He's had a few races up until Australia, and then this one where people were doubting it. We were doubting it. We were thinking Piastri had a match on him. His racecraft was letting him down a wee bit. His decision making was a bit off. Austria came in. I was very confident, very chilled out, very relaxed. That qualifying lap, well, probably one of the best laps that he's done in his career.
Mm.
Maybe if you take away the one that he got to get in his first podium. I mean, I still watch that video.
In Austria,
Coached,
yeah.
yeah, to get the 5 second gap.
Last lap, Lando.
Yeah, and he's getting coached at every corner. And it's just brilliant. It's Hollywood stuff. So, yeah, I mean, he was really good all weekend and can't really fault him. And that car's just a beast, isn't it? Really. I mean, that car just didn't matter what condition, could be too hot, too cold, rainy, mixed. It could be a goddamn tornado and that thing will drive through it. Like, where the Ferraris they were great on Friday, decent on Saturday, nowhere on Sunday. Mercedes had a this should have been Mercedes weekend because this is a cold, dreary, wet, not changeable conditions. Last year in these kind of conditions, Hamilton won it. This year they were nowhere, so that's more about the team themselves.
And this year's Mercedes is better than last year's Mercedes. There's absolutely no question about that. It might not have a 7-time world champion in it, but it is a better car.
Yep. And then, Antonelli, can't really say much about him and his race, but we'll get to him. And then Max Verstappen set the car up for a dry race with very thinned out downforce, and even he couldn't drive it. So, no one can really go on about Tsunoda this weekend because, Max Verstappen was struggling with that thing. So,
Good win for Lando though. James, what did you make? Proud of is the first Brit to win since Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, he's the first Brit to win, first McLaren win. More importantly, since Lewis Hamilton in 2008. And I'll throw out another comparison to you: the last person to win Australia, Monaco, and Britain in the wet was Lewis Hamilton in 2008. And guess what he did that year?
He won the championship, didn't
He did win the championship, yes.
he?
So is this obviously all the talk after Canada was, oh, Lando can't handle it. He's a bottler. He's lost it. He comes out in Austria, cool as a cucumber, missed an entire hour of practice, blows everybody away by half a second qualifying, and had the measure of his teammate in defense all weekend, and now comes out and wins in Britain. Is this, I don't want to say is a game back on because it's literally only just the halfway point of the season, but more than anything, like Monaco is here, Silverstone is here. In terms of like settling his nerves, this has got to be just the icing of the cake for Lando's confidence going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, I think the another good stats is his first back-to-back race wins of his career, which is a great confidence booster.
Hmm.
I think to be honest, I agree with you. I think it is game back on because I think what was it, 20 points after Canada,
26 after Canada.
26.
Yeah, it
You
was
know, you
big.
imagine if Piastri then wins the next two races, it's up to 38. You know, like it's a big, more than a race win. It's you're in a bit of like where you're gonna have to hope Oscar has some issues or whatever that is, and so I think it is game on. You know, what is it now? 8 points, 7, 8 points between them.
Eight points,
Um, and this is a
which
great
would have been a
confidence
race
booster.
win with fastest lap last year, but
True.
is slightly more than a race win
Yeah.
overall first to second now.
For some reason they took that rule away. But anyway, um, so I think it is game back on. I think it's a great confidence booster for him. I think we're coming up to the stage of the season where um, the more familiar tracks. I know Oscar would have driven them anyway, but I think it's been a great couple of weeks for him. It's always nice to win in front of your home crowd as well. Well, not that I know that, but I just think I think it'd be really good for him. And Oscar's, I think we've always I think the general consensus has been that Lando on like natural raw pace has had the edge over Oscar. I
Hmm.
think what we've seen from Oscar has been more consistent, less error prone, and we say in this, I don't remember Lando having a mistake in this race. Obviously, he only lost the position because the team had a bit of a slow stop, and it was Oscar that was making the mistake behind the safety car, having that twitch late on dry
Mm.
tires when he went across the grass, and so I think it's been a great weekend for him. Mixed conditions. Lando's always been pretty good in the rain anyway, so I'm sure he was thinking this is going to be great. But no, it is 100% game back on. It's less than a first. It's basically a first and second away. Get back in front of the championship if you can before the summer break. I must admit, I did predict one of my bold predictions before the summer, before the at the beginning of the year was before the summer break for Oscar to be winning the championship. So I might blow that out, ruin that for myself. But I think it's game on 100%, and he's going to want to make it three in a row at another iconic circuit as well. So yeah, really good performance from him, and it's we're getting a bit more of a mature Lando Norris. I don't think necessarily maturer in the way he acts, I think, but just more like a mature racer and a
Mm.
more solid racer. And I think we're seeing that the last month or so, and I think he's taken that extra step.
I completely agree. He's also on a bit of a run of home races. He's won Oscar's home race, he's won Charles's home race, and he's now won his own home race. And last year he won
Nice.
Max's home race, and he won Red Bull's home race. So he's in good form. And
There,
next up is Belgium, which he can claim as a home race as well. His mother is
true.
Belgian, if I'm not wrong.
Mm.
And that would be the stuff of dreams for him to win a second home race in a row, and go and take a third race victory in a row. And then we're getting into Hungary, where he should have won, but he gave the position back. Holland, where he dominated.
Mm.
I think that's his best win of his entire career by miles in terms of just sheer pace and domination over everybody else for the whole weekend. And then we're getting into the fun ones the rest of the season. Singapore, he's won in as well. So we're getting into a run of form, and it's a good time for him. So long may that continue. 8 points is absolutely nothing. But again, this is far from over. Oscar is a robot, as we said. I genuinely don't mean that as an insult. I actually mean that as the biggest possible compliment to him. Because, who else is a robot? Max Verstappen, when he's in form, is a total robot. Michael Schumacher was a bit of a robot. Mika Hakkinen was the robot. And all of these are incredible champions and amazing drivers. And again, it's that consistency piece. And yes, there's always going to be drivers who might be just on sheer raw pace faster than them. Max Verstappen, I would rate Charles Leclerc as someone who'd be just like for like faster on a single lap kind of thing in same machinery. Hakkinen had Schumacher. Schumacher then had like Alonso. There's always somebody faster, but I think this is going to be a fascinating, and it's just as well that we're getting this battle for the front because it's very 2014. Um, But we said last week that McLaren could break 1,000 points. They're now on 460 at the halfway point of the season, and they did not win all of those races. Max won a few, George has won one. Um, so that's without three race victories. They've got 460 points, and They're only getting better. Everyone else is only getting worse. I think we're at that point now where the top few have stopped developing their cars, and that includes McLaren. So it's kind of just going to stagnate from here. I think there might be the odd cold race where Mercedes do well. I'm sure Ferrari will turn it up in Monza, I hope. Because I would be the happiest human in the world if I get to actually see a Tifosi army win in Monza, because looking forward to that. But I think our 1,000 point prediction is still on for now. Let's chat then. We spoke about Max's spin, which is really unfortunate for him. It was a bad weekend for Red Bull just in general. They set up for low downforce. They really badly got the weather report wrong. Max said he was sat in his hotel room the night before, looked at the weather and thought, well, we're screwed. There's nothing you could do about it. The car was under parc fermé. But I want to bring it on to Ferrari. And my God, that was awful. Lewis Hamilton finished fourth, did he?
Yeah,
Yes,
fourth.
finished
Yeah.
fourth, but 5 seconds behind Hulkenberg. But ahead of Max, it ends his incredible streak of podiums in Silverstone. It's like 12 years or something like that. He's been in the
Yeah.
podium. But this was a pretty poor weekend for Ferrari Coops, and it all started before the start of the race with the strangest call ever.
Yes, it did. The biggest problem we have with Ferrari is that their car is horrible to drive when it's wet. Can't drive it. It's too twitchy.
Doesn't seem to be that great in the dry either, to be fair.
No. But I mean, this weekend, though, the Friday, I think Fred First came out and said that Friday was the best Friday they've had all season. They were up at the front. Hamilton got first place. They were then second and third in FP2. And then it just went all a bit Ferrari. And then at the weekend, Charles was cutting the grass and Hamilton was just struggling. And I mean, to not be able to keep pace with Stake F1, who's in third, I mean, it just tells you. I mean, there was that much going on. I can't actually remember what the decision was prior to the race that started it all.
He went in and pitted after the formation lap to put him on. I think Charles went on to mediums at least. For some reason, George Russell went on to hards, the longest to warm up tire on the coldest wet track. But it was a gamble.
And a car that can't actually keep the tires
Do
on.
it. Yeah, it's a gamble, but it's a gamble that if you're in the top 10, you don't make. You just don't. And I'll apply this to Mercedes as well, from fourth for George Russell. You just don't make that gamble. If you're Nico Hülkenberg in 19th, you make that gamble, and even he didn't have to make that gamble. They gambled later in the race. It was just so strange. And then there was a radio message as well, like coming up to a safety car, and the pit said to Charles, do you want to pit now under the safety car? And Charles was like, well, I need more information than that. What will happen? And all of a sudden, it was like it was Charles's idea, and they were turning him off from it. Oh, well, if you pit now, you'll be 10 seconds off the back of the field. So why would you want to do that? And Charles was like, you told me to do it, and now it's
You
too late.
asked the question.
You literally asked the question. It's farcical sometimes listening to the Ferrari pit wall. It's almost getting just. It's beyond embarrassing. It's getting just really, really upsetting to hear. It's ridiculous. James, what did you make of just Ferrari's weekend in general?
Yeah, well, it started with so much promise, didn't it? I think they looked good in the dry, but it looked a very ambitious decision to bring Charles in for dry tyres on the formation lap. And unfortunately, they must have made the decision quite early because they missed the wettest part of the track, basically, didn't they? I think obviously stone stuff would have been quite wet, but actually the Vale chicane, I think it's Vale, the Vale chicane would have been. Or the club chicane would have been much, it was the wettest part. So they obviously missed that aspect of it, make a decision early. But even so, like, it's not like it was Hungary 2021 when everyone died because it was so clearly dry. This
Yeah.
there was spray and there was like, okay, so that was it. And I'm very happy they didn't pit both drunk cars because I know initially what was watching, I thought they had. I thought, oh my God, that's and they just kept doing. I think it's similar when you try and do that, similar to what Mercedes did, that you try and then make up for it. You try and make decisions that maybe you might not quite need to be making at that time and go too early onto tyres and make a decision and think, oh, we might as well. And I think it just unraveled for them. And but Coop said it right, that the car looked horrendous to drive in, especially in the very wet conditions. We saw in Australia they couldn't really hook it up either in the low grit conditions. So it's just not a great race, but you can always count on Ferrari to make illogical, seemingly quite rushed decisions in the moments, and they still haven't quite been able to get over that. So yeah, but just a bad weekend all round. And when you need to not make mistakes, Ferrari do seem to like to make mistakes. So they've got something to sort out because these are sort of races that show I think where a team are and what sort of communication they have and what sort of organization they have and what sort of work under pressure. And Ferrari very rarely get these sort of races right. So yeah, just horrendous all round, unfortunately. Yeah, it's the way it goes.
It's a bit of a shame. And after
Yeah.
FP1, everybody was losing their minds
Yeah.
because now that was a glory run if I've ever seen one. Sorry, it just was. To give the fans something to cheer about with him in red. It was absolutely a glory run. You had the commentators saying, "Oh, the McLarens are so slow. Why they're so slow? Are they sandbagging?"
He
They're literally covered in Floviz paint,
he could have got
deliberately going.
pole. He could have got pole.
Who?
Lewis could have got pole. Yeah, he was
Easily
only a
get.
tenth off. He was only like 2 tenths off, and he lost a good bit in the lot. I think he could have got it if he
He
nailed
did
the
lose a
lap.
chunk. He did lose a chunk
Yeah,
in at the curve at the end. Yeah. Sorry, Coops, were you
yeah.
going to say something there?
Yes, interestingly, Charles Leclerc said in the media pit after that they've been chasing some weird thing that happens to the car during Q3. It's not. There is some sort of. It was again. It was the race.com that had said that they had a look at the data and there is some weird thing going on. Whether it's a power unit with the stresses of the Q3 and opening it up to party mode or hammer time or whatever Ferrari call it. That something weird goes on.
Hmm.
Initially, I was thinking when I was listening to it, I was like, is it some sort of aero stall or some sort of, downforce issue just as they get to the Q3? But it seems more to do with a power unit thing. And it's this weird behaviour that Ferrari have been chasing all season. And it only seems to really occur when it's Q3 and, you're going all out, your balls to the wall, pushing it, that this
Hmm.
thing happens. And when you when
That
you go when you're going into Q3 already knowing there's an issue that will probably make some sort of appearance, you're
they're
at the
probably going
back
to
foot.
overdrive. They're probably going to overdrive to compensate. But that might be both a. I'm not going to say it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing because what can they really do about it right now? But I suppose on the flip side of that, in 6 months' time, they'll never have to use this engine ever again. Because it's a brand new power unit designed for next year, so they might be able to correct it. But if that's a problem for them, then this is going to be a really tough second half of the season because we're coming into a lot of power circuits.
Mm.
Literally, the next one being the power circuit. Um, Let's move on to Mercedes and another just awful weekend. They went even weirder on the strategy. I don't know what the hell has happened to Mercedes in the past this year, but their strategy calls, pit wall calls, just in general decision making seems to be Ferrari level at some points. To put George Russell on hard tires on a wet track, this is one of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen. It's like putting
Twice.
twice, yeah. It was absolutely insane. And Kimi Antonelli was a little bit unlucky though, Coops. He got rear-ended by Hadjar, I think. I couldn't
Yeah,
really
it was
see much on
Hadjar.
screen. But just an awful weekend for George Russell, I suppose, wasn't it?
Oh, it was terrible. But I mean, that wasn't really Russell's fault necessarily. It was the call from
No,
the
just
pit
not how he
wall.
would have wanted his home
Yeah,
race to go.
no, they were absolutely nowhere. Russell just he was brought in early, as you've touched on. As soon as they came in after the formation lap, and you could see it being almost dry. I got Brundle going, why are we going behind the safety car? Like, what are we
Mm.
doing for the formation lap? But then Piastri comes out just as these cars are leaving, going, stud sector's still not
Still
dry
wet.
enough.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, okay. And then, yeah, it was proven right. I think Bortoleto was the first one to prove it right properly. He
Yeah, like the
yeeted it.
third corner.
Yeah, I just kind of, away he went. Um, And then Antonelli, just an innocent victim. Hadjar, the spray was everywhere, couldn't see it, straight into the back of him. Hadjar goes into the wall. Antonelli, I think they said it was 40 points worth of downforce he lost because the whole right side of the diffuser, which is the main thing to get you downforce,
Yeah,
was
there
no
was a
longer
shot.
attached to the car. So
There
it
was a
doesn't
sh
it doesn't work when
There was a
it's like
shot of
that.
it. There was a shot of it coming out of its pit garage, and the diffuser is usually like completely sealed in. You can see the big tunnel of it, and you can see just a black hole in the middle of it. You could see clear through to the mechanic on the stood on the other side of the car. There was a gaping hole just
Yeah,
cut out of the diffuser. It wasn't there anymore. He ripped it off. There's a
Mm.
double diffuser. He had a negative diffuser.
he did.
Um, That it's an interesting point though. Just you mentioned a few of them there. James, the rookies did not fare well in the rain. Antonelli was unlucky, but he
Mm.
wasn't exactly setting the world alight. Hadjar got completely caught out by the spray was bad, but I mean, you're a Formula One
Same
driver.
for everyone. Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody else did it. Um, who else? Lawson crashed. Uh, did they all?
Behrman survived. I think Behrman was
Behrman
the only one
survived.
that
Behrman's the
actually
only one who
finished,
survived.
Beeman's the
but
only
Not
one
for
that
did
lack,
survived.
but did
not for
spin
lack of
about four
trying.
times.
He
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah, he cut
um,
most of the grass
yeah.
at one of the corners.
At
Not
Luffield, he
a
got very good at cutting Luffield. Yeah.
big. I mean, Jensen Button says it's the worst corner in Formula One. So maybe Behrman was like, I agree with him. I'm just
Yeah,
going to take the
yeah.
shortcut.
Yeah.
Um, but steep learning curve for the rookies. That
Mm.
one wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's interesting that the rookies in general have looked pretty good this year, apart
Mm.
from the two races that were affected by the weather. Obviously, Australia, they were spinning like nobody's business. And then same Silverstone. I think there was a few instances. I think Bortolesso unfortunately was just put on the wrong tire at the wrong time in the
Mm.
mediums, and he was looking like he was absolutely feathering it and still lost it.
Yeah,
Yeah, Lawson
that's
was
fair.
unlucky. 3 into 1 doesn't really go, and it's one of those. I think Tsunoda was a little bit cheeky, just sort of stick his wing in between the corner and Ocon, and then got caught out. So that was unfortunate. What other ones? Antonelli, yeah, we just spoke about a bit unfortunate being rammed by Hadjar, then who obviously that's the other rookie that got rammed. But again, like you say, they weren't looking very quick
Mm-mm.
anyway, were they really? And Behrman again did very well to actually finish the race after having quite a few rendezvous with the grass. So yeah, it was unfortunate. It's interesting that these are the two races the rookies have struggled. If and we know these cars are particularly hard to drive and particularly unique in the way they produce their power, they put down the power. So I don't know if it's got something to do with that. I think, like we said, there was a few instances of putting on the wrong tire at the wrong time. But yeah, interesting that this is another race where they struggled, and it's uncharacteristic because apart from that, they've been fantastic. So I think it's just another learning curve for them. Hopefully, next time when it rains, they'll be slightly better and there'll be a few more finishes. But in general, it's quite chaotic, anyways, and they make up quarter of the grid, so some of them are probably going to end up in the barriers.
That's true, but you'd like to hope that we don't have another race where the only retirees are all the rookies.
Yeah, true.
All but one. Well, Colpinto didn't even start.
Yeah, so
Um,
Colpinto's unfortunate as well.
but and he might not ever start again.
Oof, he'll
Sorry,
transform
that's
into
harsh,
Bottas.
harsh
Yeah,
way of putting it. If he's being really sound, he might they might at least wait until the summer break. But
yeah,
when has Flavio Briatore ever been sound?
no.
Unless you're Fernando Alonso in Singapore in 2008. Um, but from the rookies to experience, it was really experience that shone out this weekend. Coops. Obviously, we had Hulkenberg up in third, but Gasly and Stroll had incredible races as well. Gasly P6, Stroll P7, and Stroll was running up in the lofty heights of the podium for a good chunk of the race. Again, just really good strategy call. And as Martin Brundle said, I think about 20 times in commentary, Lance is really good in this scenario. We've seen it before in Turkey. Yeah, we saw it once before in Turkey.
Getting paid.
And yeah, and he did really well in Turkey. To his credit, he did really well today. And then had a radio message at the end goes, "The worst piece of shit I've ever driven." But this was a good
Yep.
race.
He's a
What did you make
charmer.
of Gasly and Stroll's weekend? They both needed a bit of a confidence booster, didn't they?
They did, especially Gasly. I think the Alpine team are just going through a bit of a strange transition at the minute. I don't think they really know what they are. Are they Renault? Are they Alpine? Are they going to be bought by someone else? Who knows? Could be Deadpool F1 next year. Who knows?
There's a Renault store in the shopping center near me, which is weird. It's a public shopping center. There's just a Renault shop in the middle of it. And I was there 2 hours ago, and it's now an Alpine store.
All right.
I didn't even know they sold Alpines in Ireland, but they do now because Renault can never decide what they want to be from one day to the next. So it's not
No.
just the Formula One team, just the company has an identity crisis. But sorry, yes. Back to Gasly.
Yes. So I mean, it could be Lotus next year. It could be Renault. It could be anybody. I have no idea. So after the recent troubles that Alpine have had for Gasly to be pretty decent, they got the calls right. They got where they needed to be. And they stayed there. And Gasly's decent. I know Stroll has a history. I think he got a pole in one race because of the rain. Didn't go anywhere, as
He
far
did,
as
he
I
didn't
was
win the race.
history. Yeah,
He was on pole in Turkey in the rain.
yeah, that's what I
Hmm.
so.
Sorry, I thought you
Uh,
said he got pole and won a race.
no. Didn't go anywhere
Yes,
after he got the pole.
that's because Lewis
Uh,
Hamilton turned his slicks into softs that day.
he did, yeah. So, it was Stroll annoys me. I just don't know. Again, what does he want to do with himself? It's either, like, we know your dad is part of the ownership of the team. He's the main man, but there are stakeholders, and there are shareholders and investors that he needs to kind of answer to or discuss things with. As much as you don't really want to have a discussion with Lawrence Stroll, because he does look like a Bond villain. He probably has some sort of Bond tech somewhere to
He didn't
cause
buy
you
Aston
issues.
Martin for no reason, did he?
Yeah. I'm sure every year there's talk that Stroll might leave. I think part of me wonders if Stroll's still there because he doesn't want to let Dad down, because Dad bought the team for him, and he's kind of like, I really don't want to do it anymore. Sitting there saying, Mum, what do you say to him? I mean, he's just walked in and said, "Look, we're buying this wind tunnel for you. We're going to do," and I've been watching 10. Wimbledon's on. So I just don't know. Like, he done well enough. They've got them some points. It was a double points for them. But they're two drivers that are clearly unhappy. Stroll says it was an absolute shitbox. During the race, Alonso was like, why is it you always do this to me when it comes to strategy calls? Interestingly enough, they were a bit miffed from what I heard, because the decisions and what they did was pretty much what was discussed. Excuse me. And I think Lewis Hamilton did it. I think Max Verstappen done a similar strategy. So that in the pit wall, they're like, what are you talking about? But, Fernando, it's Fernando, and he has his,
His ways.
mind and his ways and his
Yeah.
opinions. So, yeah, overall, it was a decent enough race. But yeah, I mean, like Stroll's right. It is not a good car.
No, it's not.
So,
I think you're right. I've made this point a couple of times on the podcast that whatever about Lawrence Stroll owning the team and stuff like that, the fact of the matter is he doesn't own 100% of it. At this point, Adrian Newey owns 25% of it. And they have other investors. There's more people in the consortium that bought out Racing Point. It's not just Lawrence Stroll. He didn't buy every penny of it himself. There are more people who have their income and investments based on how well this Aston Martin team does, and they have not spent all of their money on Adrian Newey and continuing to keep Fernando Alonso for nothing. And I I still don't fully believe he'll be there next season. I think they'll ship him off to the Valkyrie project. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think he'll do really well in the Valkyrie project. I'm looking at like the drivers they have now, and they are all career sports car drivers, which fine. A lot of them have races in sports cars. Not a single one of them has even come anywhere remotely close to Formula One. And the fact of the matter is, it's a different level. You've seen Formula One drivers, even if they're midfielders. Nico Hülkenberg has won in Le Mans, and he only just got his first Formula One podium. Lance Stroll got his as a rookie in a Williams. So even a bad Formula One driver is still a level above career sports car drivers. With the best of respect to career sports car drivers, you don't get to Formula One, even if your daddy buys your team, by not being quick. And the fact of the matter is, Lance got into Williams on merit from his junior career. He was good. So I think he'd be very, very good in the Valkyrie program. And I still believe that at some point they'll ship him off there. That'll do it for kind of a look at the race. It was a very, very good one. I think the rest of the year will do well to top that. We've got a couple of comments coming in on YouTube that I want to read out before we move on to the big news story that broke over the last couple of days as well that I want to talk about. Completely, Jared says, completely agree with the discussion. Incidents where another car is taken out should be penalized harsher, but his money is still on Oscar to win the championship. And he said that he has also heard that issue about Ferrari coupes that you brought up. Fred implied that Leclerc has said too much in the media pit, which is interesting. Fred Vasseur is coming under a little bit of pressure lately at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. But at the end of the day, like, he should be the one to turn around to tell the pit crew, "Will you stop being such idiots on the radio, for God's sake?" And he's not. So thank you, Jared, for your comments. Anybody else listening, comment in. But what I want to move on to before we finish up is the FIA presidency. Now, we did a whole episode on this a little while ago on Mohammed Ben Sulayem and and I'm quoting now because it's now been brought up again, reign of terror. So Tim Mayer, who you may remember was second in charge in the FIA a couple of years, resigned or was pushed out last year, has announced formally that he will be running for president of the FIA against Ben Sulayem. I think it's December vote at the end of the year. And in his announcement, he said that he is running to end Ben Sulayem's reign of terror. Really harsh words, really accurate words, I think, because I think we're all in agreement that Ben Sulayem sucks. James, you're nodding your head there. What's your initial reaction to hearing that there might finally be someone to challenge the dictator in charge of the FIA?
Yeah, it's always good. Always good. I was worried about these sort of unopposed presidential elections. Reminds me a bit of Sepp Blatter during the his FIFA years. And I do think it's always worry when the FI presidency like tries to become the guy. I know he obviously runs the thing, but like, how many times do you remember seeing Jean Todt, waddle around the track? And even I know Max Mosley got up to some mischief in his personal life, which caused him to get into the public eye, but most of the time, they were in the background doing their thing. Well, it's clear that Ben Simmons made it his mission to be the man. So I know, that many people don't resign and have that many issues if it's not, there's no smoke without fire. They're all consistent, and we've all agreed that the NDAs not make force people to sign NDAs before they do anything, and that in the FIA, and you either do it my way or the highway. It's just not the way you're going to run an international conglomerate of sports. So hopefully Tim Meyer does a good job. I was hoping for Carlos Sainz Senior. I think that would have been pretty cool. But then he pulled out and I can't remember what he said. It was like it didn't seem to fit well with what he wanted to do. So that's fair enough. He was going to get in the way of his rallying. So that would have been good. But we need people to challenge, especially someone that's been done so badly. We can't just let them go unopposed in an election to get another 5 years or however long it is. So I'm happy that we've got an objector, and obviously someone that's very high up in the FIA, lots of experience, well respected. So it should be a tight run, because I think Ben Simmons is probably going to have some votes, have some people that he's put in positions to back him up and do all that sort of stuff. So hopefully it works out and we get the right guy, because I just think it's just not worked out and we need a change.
Yeah, we for sure completely agree. Ben Sulayem has pretty publicly said that he's just going to remove or fire people who dare to challenge him, and he wants to bring in literally laws within the FIA to say that he can't be challenged. Like, he's going
Yeah,
full dictator.
yeah,
Even certain orange colored people in America haven't got that bad yet.
yeah, yeah.
For background, in case you're unaware of him, Tim Mayer is the son of the co-founder of the McLaren Formula One team, Teddy Mayer. So he goes way back in motorsport.
That's why we like him.
Yes, it is. Was a long-standing FIA steward. He was an FIA steward for 15 years. He maintains to this day that he was sacked by Ben Sulayem. He did not resign, even though that's pretty much what Ben Sulayem says. And he said in his announcement that if you look at the number of people, I'm quoting here, if you look at the number of people who have resigned from the FIA or who have gone in with the best intentions but cannot affect change or say, no, this is a bad idea, Mr. President, and then get sacked, it's a reign of terror. You're wondering what the next scandal is, he said. Very, very interesting. He's been very openly critical of Ben Sulayem. He's not the only one. He said, we have the illusion of transparency and engagement, and perhaps most corrosive, the illusion of integrity, dictatorship. We have witnessed wave after wave of statute amendments ushering in the greatest centralization of power in the FIA's history. These are really, really strong words, Coops. It really does sound like an actual political campaign, but it's not quite that severe. But at the end of the day, like, the FIA is an absolutely massive organization, global organization, and it is being run by a small-minded dictator. Let's call it what it is.
No, it's a man who has an ego and wants to keep a hold of power. I mean, we have not heard of that before. And interestingly, on the 6th of July, Andrew Benson from BBC has reported that Britain's representative on the FIA Senate has been removed by Ben Sulayem.
Yeah, just axing people left, right, and centre.
Ben Cousins, Vice President of the Royal Automobile Club, has been on the Senate for 3.5 years, after supporting Ben Sulayem's candidature for presidency originally. He's been replaced by Azerbaijani Anar Albakarov, if I've said that right. The Senate is the FIA body responsible for financial oversight and governance structure. Interestingly, the rules were changed recently The removal comes just weeks after a change to the rules governing body composition at a General Assembly. They gave the FIA president the power to appoint or dismiss the required 4 independent and qualified, quote-unquote, members of the Senate. Previously, the president could only propose an appointment, but it had to be agreed by the rest of the members. He now has sole control over which independent person is on the Senate, and the Senate is there to control the financial governance.
He also
lads,
apparently has control of
Crazy.
the 36 member clubs, or from 36 member clubs. The FIA structure is quite complicated. I don't have all the information on it, but this is from the Guardian's report on this whole thing. They say the FIA structure heavily favors the incumbent against the challenger, and Ben Sulayem recently received a letter of support from 36 member clubs, which Mayer thinks is bullshit, and good for him. He said, quote, "When a letter is shoved under your nose and you're told, sign this or else, anyone is going to sign it," he said. Quoting again, "But the only vote that counts are in December. That process will still have full democracy," end quote. So he's basically saying they signed it under duress. They don't mean it. And when it comes to presumably a closed ballot in December, they're all going to go, fuck you, you're not going to know if I voted for you or not. But Ben Sulayem seems to have his hand in every single honeypot, so he probably has like little spy rats in the voting booths for all we know.
I mean, it's going to be close. It's not
Yeah,
going to
well,
be a thing.
no, it won't be a
you know,
walkover.
'cause it won't be a walkover. It'll be one or the other. I won't be surprised if either are or in it. Interestingly, I just didn't realize the extent of the people that have questioned him, and it says even the BBC have said there that President's dismissal follows the removal of senior figures, all apparently because they have disagreed or clashed with Ben Sulayem. These include Tim Mayer, who we've discussed, Chief Executive Officer Natalie Robin, FIA Race Director Neil Vittich, Compliance Officer Pablo Basri, and the head of the Audit Committee, Money again.
See those again. Even those roles, like
Yeah.
you're in dispute with the wrong sort of roles there.
Yeah,
The audit
Bertrand
committee.
Badri. Robert Reid resigned his position as the Vice President for Sport in March over what he described as standards breakdown within the FIA. These are very specific roles and very specific opinions, and they all follow a very similar narrative. It's a very, very scary time if you're involved in FIA, and for us, it'll filter down one way or the other. But yeah, and I mean, it's not a surprise because UK Motorsport, I think it's Dave Richards, his name is in dispute with Ben Sulayem because they were blocked from one of the recent World Motorsport Council meetings because they refused to sign an NDA. Never had to sign it before. All of a sudden, just as they were about to go into this meeting, sign that, and they're like, "No, it's not transparent. We don't care. Well, I'm not doing it. Well, you're not getting in." So they're going to court. There's all sorts of stuff. Like, are we all stupid here? Like, he's not even disguising it anymore. He's literally saying, "You don't like me? You're out the door. You want to talk bad about me? Here, sign this bit of paper." Those 36 clubs that have all said that, okay. Like, seriously. Like, to his face, love you, Paul. You're the man. You're the man. I mean, it's the same as a certain politician. I'd imagine there's a lot of people that will be the same. But behind closed doors, that guy's mental. Like, did you shoot? No chance. It's just unreal how it's playing out.
It will come to a head. I'm trying to just look up what is the actual election date. It is the 12th of December. So the week after the season ends, if I'm not wrong, which is the 7th.
Yeah.
In Kazakhstan, for some reason. Not in their head offices in
Kazakhstan.
Paris. So that does not sound like an accidental choice, random though it might be to just blurt it out like that. Something tells me Ben Sulayem probably has a friend or two there if I had to make a sweeping, unsubstantiated guess.
The scary thing is, though, if he does win, what we getting next? Where does he go? How does he entrench the power? He's going to have an ego bigger than Spa.
If he wins, he becomes the Pope of the FIA. He will be there till he dies, or someone hits him with a car. That's what we can expect. Now, with the best one in the world, all of his wild policies don't seem to have yet affected Formula One too badly because, like, while they might be the governing body for Formula One, they're not the rights holders for Formula One, at least not
No.
yet. That might be his plan in his next tenure, if he does, is to take just full commercial control of Formula One and make himself even richer.
I
Um,
don't think he
I don't
can
know
because
how I don't know how he would. I don't know how he
I
would.
think the lease to Formula One for the commercial holders from FIA, their name is like entrenched and stoneclad, and it's very long.
Yeah,
It's
and
Mm.
so
Formula One and FOM and the rights holders and all that, Bernie Ecclestone, all of them have all threatened to leave Formula One, which essentially means leave the FIA or
yeah.
leave Formula One or leave FOM Formula One management multiple times, including a few years ago. So if he went and just started ruling the hammer left, right, and center, the likes of Stefano Domenicali, and Toto Wolff and whomever else would probably just go. We just go do our own thing back on all the old circuits that we all loved, and we'll bring
Mhm.
back V10s. Yeah, cool. All in
Yeah.
agreement. Cool. See you in Jerez. Um, which would be awesome, actually. Um,
I think there's a power play. There will be a power play between Formula One and the FIA because although
again,
the FIA, but this is going to have a bit more of a bit more meat to the bones. I mean, there was a lot of power playing, and I'm going to take my ball, well, I'm going to take the goals. I mean, kind of knew they weren't really going to do it. It got close, but it was never really going to happen. But I think with the hatred that Ben Silliam is probably conjuring up with a lot of people, it will get to a point where it's a bit like in a kind of unionized sort of situation where you got your managers turning around to your workforce and saying, if you don't sign this and get a wage cut of 15%, you're sacking you. And the
hmm,
union goes, well, they can't sack everyone,
yeah.
so don't sign it. Like, yeah, one or two people, but if the whole workforce goes no, so when Formula One themselves go, nah, we're not doing that. Like,
We don't
and
need you to govern us anymore. We're
yeah,
a franchise model now. We're the richest sport in the entire world. Bye.
that's just what I was going to say. Like, the money that Formula One generates for the FIA, like, that's a lot of money.
Hmm.
And their budgets are probably set on Formula One because, like, let's face it, Formula One is the tentpole of the FIA, then it filters down to everything else. There'll be some that will be relatively close, but not to the income expenditure kind of, the financials. Uh, it's the main part of what the FIA does, I would imagine. So,
But you
you
wouldn't put it
know,
past if Formula One, again, this is all speculatory and based on him actually winning, Ben Sulayem actually winning again in December, which now is not guaranteed, thankfully. He was having a bit of a Putiny moment of just, vanishing people who might um, disagree with him. But for now, at least, Tim Mayer hasn't vanished yet that I know of. I really hope I haven't just jinxed that with my luck. But you wouldn't put it past a few other sports. Like, if Formula One broke away, they could pretty easily take two, three Academy and four with them. They
mhm.
all race in the support ticket of Formula One anyway. They all make their money on the support ticket of Formula One anyway. Why the hell would they want to stay under the arm of the FIA saying, oh, you can't go to Silverstone, go to Brands Hatch instead? It's like, no, no, Formula One are in Silverstone just because you don't own them anymore, you don't control them anymore. We're going to stay with them. We'll go to Silverstone, thanks.
Yeah.
Um, Again, wild speculation. Probably never going to happen, but if it does, we'll clip this in a few years, um, and it'll go viral. But that'll do. That was just the one big piece of news that I really, really wanted to bring up because I thought that was really worth talking about. Because while it's not going to affect anything this year, probably not even next year either, it will become a huge talking point towards the end of this season, as the F1 season wraps up, and that'll play a part in things going forward. Any final news then from either of you?
Not that I've seen.
Good. That'll do it
Yeah.
then for us. Thank you very, very much for listening. We have been Everything F1. Thank you very much for everyone who's tuned in on our live stream. A couple of final comments. The danger of surrounding yourself with a yes man and firing back dissenters, you stop getting honest feedback. Yep, that's how dictatorships work, unfortunately. And Jared says he has bought tickets for the Saturday sprint in Spa. I'm not jealous at all, Jared. Enjoy that. Thank you very, very much for listening and commenting in. If you want to get involved in our future live stream podcast, then head over to our YouTube channel, Everything F1, all one word. Hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified when we're going live, and you can get involved with us as well. And when we hit 500 subscribers, we will be giving away a Lego F1 Speed Champion set to one lucky subscriber. So that's all you have to do. Just head over and hit subscribe. We have been Everything F1. Check us out on all socials. Check out everythingf1.com for daily news and articles, and head over to raceworks.com for all of your F1 motorsport merch, and use code EF1 at checkout for 10% off site-wide. That'll do it for us. Final rating of the British Grand Prix, Coops?
The final rating, 8.5. 9.
Oh,
But before we go,
oh, we forgot our
predictions.
Our predictions. I feel surprisingly good about this.
I don't.
I feel good about this. Yes, sorry. One last thing. Our predictions. Coops, can you please furnish us with this? And while you're doing that, while you pull that out, we did actually get a message from our James Tiller as well, who was he was at Silverstone over the weekend. He said the atmosphere was absolutely amazing, and to be fair, you could hear that on the TV. It sounded like a great weekend. Rain didn't seem to dampen anything. The race was great. He booed Mohammed Ben Sulayem, so that's on brand. Fair play. The F2 and F3 races were good. I completely agree. The F2 race, the feature race, was particularly incredible. I'm delighted Alex Dunn got on the podium, but Luke Browning was a superstar. 12th to 3rd, just literally looked like he was playing the F1 game on easy mode. Incredible result in front of his home fans. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Jack Crawford for winning that race. Really, really good weekend. And shout out to Phil McLaughlin, young Irish driver who was driving in the Formula 4 demonstrations this weekend in not demonstrations, they were races, they just weren't championship races. Great opportunity for all the young drivers in British Formula 4 to get to show off in front of not just the massive home crowd. It was an incredible turnout for the Formula 4 races as well, but also the F1 paddock, which is a really, really rare experience. And it's great to see another Irish driver in what is the closest they will get to a home Grand Prix anytime soon, sadly. Right then, Coops, predictions.
Right,
How do we
so
do?
for anyone who doesn't know, we go for pole, the top 3, and wildcard. So, pole, Sean, Lando. Well, not pole, no, he didn't get pole. Don't cheer, no.
Oh shit, I thought you were doing the race win. Damn it.
No, pole.
Pole.
James, Norris, who, and I went Piastri, who.
Oh, none of us thought Max. Max didn't come out of nowhere with that one.
Yeah, he did. All 3 of us for the win, Lando. Second place, me and you, Sean, we went with Piastri.
Yep.
Oh, damn it.
James is losing this completely. He went for Russell.
Ooh, about 9 places off there.
It doesn't get much better either for me, to be fair. So.
Sean, you can't be smug because you had Russell third.
Hey.
It's still only 8 places off compared to 9.
I had Lewis Hamilton, so I was close.
Close.
You
I
were
don't
close.
think anybody predicted Hulk.
If anybody had predicted Hulkenberg, they'd have won this mini competition for the rest of time, to be fair. So.
Interestingly, when I was setting out the graphic for the race predictions, which I put out on our socials on a Sunday before the race, I put Hulkenberg in on the 4 drivers that I decided to put in. Randomly just decided I'm going to put Hulk in. Then I thought, actually, I don't have Max there. He got pole. He deserves it. I took Hulk out, put Max in. I was like, damn it. So after the race, I changed it just so it was the Hulk version. Just
nice.
But it was weird how that worked out. Anyway, third place, as I say, Sean, was Russell. I went for Hamilton, and so did Jane. Wild cards. These are always fun. Weirdly, this was the one we talked about. James went with a Hamilton third place and a Hamilton win for his wild card. Don't know how the hell that happened. So no, that was bad.
Lewis could barely get on top of driving 1 car this weekend, let alone 2.
I went with Red Bull DNA. going by how bad the car was,
Mm.
and Max get a spin in there and made a mistake. So,
Sonoda had a few collisions as well. He could have
Oh,
easily broken his front wing.
Andy got another penalty.
Yeah,
So-
I nearly let you
And-
have that one, to be
And
honest.
finished last again as
Last a lap down.
well.
Oh, yeah, and Sean, you said that Sonoda would out-qualify Max.
Unlucky, that's unfortunate.
Dude.
Did he not? Did he not?
Unless he was driving the safety car on the formation lap. Then
Nice.
No.
Oh,
So-
maybe I should have said Bert Mylander would qualify Max.
So I think, in all fairness, I think I was the closest with Lando first, Piastri second, Hamilton third. Out of everything, I think that's the closest.
Hmm.
I think
I
you
think that's
guys
fair
lose
enough.
it with Russell being in the top three and Tsunoda out qualifying Max or a Hamilton one. Just confusing matters. So it'll be interesting when we do the podcast next week. So I think we've got a couple of weeks now, haven't we? It's like there's
2
nothing
weeks.
this
now.
weekend and then nothing the weekend after.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of weeks to get yourselves in shape, lads. That was ridiculous. Shocking, shocking.
That was pretty
Get
cool.
inside and do some laps. That's terrible, terrible. I turned into Alex Ferguson there for a second.
did
To
a little bit.
apologise.
He did.
To
He did.
apologise. Very proud, very proud.
We got the hairdryer treatment there. But yes, there's a couple of weeks off now. It is, as we record, the 7th of July, so we have a 20-day wait. Which interestingly, this is the day I was supposed to be born. The next race is on my birthday. So random fact about me.
There'll be people out there
congratulations.
going, "Which star sign does that make you?"
If I'd have been born today, a different one.
Well,
So the next race, obviously, there's a couple of weeks off. It's not quite the dramatic 4-week break we had in the random, in like October last year.
that
It
was
is
weird.
2.5-week break. Next race, obviously, is Belgium in Spa-Francorchamps on Sunday, the 27th of July at 2 o'clock. We give you the full breakdown of the weekend in our preview next week, which come out ahead of that race, but or maybe in the following week ahead of that race. A couple of weeks off, but yeah, that will definitely do it now. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for listening. Once again, we've been Everything F1. Check us out on all socials: Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads at JoinEF1, TikTok at EF1 Official, and YouTube, Everything F1, all one word. And you can head over to our website, everythingf1.com, for daily news and articles. And thanks as always to our sponsors, theraceworks.com. If you want any F1 or motorsport merch, if you're going to any of the races, Coops, I know you're going to Spa. I'm very jealous. I'm going to Monza, and I've been stocking up. That's where I got this hat. Head over to theraceworks.com and use our code EF1 at checkout for 10% off site-wide. That'll do it from us. Congratulations to Lando Norris. Bigger congratulations to Nico Hülkenberg. British Grand Prix delivered yet again.